Okay, hey everybody, welcome to this week's tutorial. So we are going to be looking at ways to create track mats in After Effects, different ways of compositing footage on top of each other, and then we are going to take a look at exporting those, bringing them into Premiere, and kind of experimenting with how different sounds or different types of music affect or inform how the viewer is interpreting the visuals. Because, we work a lot in visuals, and I feel like visuals gets all the stage time in terms of talking about the craft of storytelling. But the sound design is really half of it, or maybe even more, because a lot of the times what you're hearing tells you how to feel about what you're seeing. So that's really important, and I think is not talked enough about, when people are talking about the art of filmmaking or storytelling, in various ways. So anyways, yeah, this is kind of a two-parter. It's just we're going to look at some ways to composite video footage and then really start thinking about how that sound affects how the viewer feels about the image and how powerful that can be for you as a storyteller to, guide them along. Because ultimately, when you're creating content for people, you're giving something for them to engage with, and you're telling them how to care or feel about it as well, whether it's humor, sadness, hope, whatever the emotion is. So we are going to do this in After Effects. I am going to go ahead and I'm actually going to quit After Effects really quick because I want to start fresh on a new project. Many of you have experience in After Effects coming into the class, but some of you might not have any experience in After Effects at all. So I am going to enter this as though, we've never opened After Effects before and try to get people caught up here as quickly as possible. I do have this absurdly large pointer on my screen so that it's easier for you to see where I'm going. But anyways, so let me go ahead and launch. I'm launching 2025 for whatever reason. I think I have 26 installed, but I don't know, I've got them both, so it doesn't really matter. What we're doing today doesn't have any updates that 2026 is needed for. Okay, so I actually want to open this project, but if you're coming into After Effects brand new, what you're going to want to do is start a new project. And so when you do that, you're going to get a screen that looks like this. We're going to get back to this here in just a bit. But that's really all you need to do is start a new project, and I will guide you from there. So I'm going to go ahead and hide After Effects for the moment. The next thing I want to talk to you about are tutorial files. Now, a lot of times I have you guys go out and get your own tutorial files for a tutorial. This week I have these available for you to download and use. I suggest that. You can use your own clips too, perfectly fine. But it might be easier just this week because we are going to go over some kind of technical things, and After Effects is quite a bit more complicated than Adobe Premiere. It might just be easier to use the assets I have for you to download. But what you do need to do is create a folder somewhere on your computer, in your documents or your desktop, somewhere where you know where it is, and you need to put all those assets in that folder before you start the project. The project organization or file organization in After Effects is the same as Premiere. You need to have everything in a place where the software can find it through file paths. So like if I start my project in After Effects and I have all my assets in here, and then I come in here and throw them all in my trash, and I open my After Effects project again, it's not going to know where any of the assets are because the file path has been broken. So anyways, I'm going to come over here and I'm actually going to close this project. And did I not click on that? It's probably going to ask me. No, it doesn't want to close the project. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just reboot here quickly. All right, so I already have this project set up. So I'm going to go ahead and open my project here, but of course you'll start a new project and we'll go over the new composition here in just a moment. So let me go ahead and go over what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to create track mats. And what that is it's basically creating a layer that sort of has a block for one layer of video. So like I created a layer of text and I'm telling the software that I only want my cloud footage to overlap with my text layer and I want the rest of it to be transparent. So another way of saying it is creating a mask. Some of you might be familiar with creating masks. So yeah, so that we're going to start off with this basic one here. Another one that we're going to do is working with some smoke footage to create a different type of transparency and add a few effects there. And then on this one, we're going to be looking at different blending modes and going on a different direction visually with the footage that we have here. So that is what we're going to do. All right, so I'm going to close these out so it looks just like your screen when you come in, and go ahead and close that out. Actually, I don't know if I wanted to close that out. Let me see here. So I can't exactly get the screen up, but it says new composition, and the other way to get there is to go to composition, new composition, or Command or Control N. So if you have a start new composition option here, go ahead and click that. I'm going to go the old-fashioned way, and we end up with the same interface. So I am going to go ahead and create this. Since I already have mine set up, I'm going to call it Wander 2. And for these, I think you can make them really whatever size you want. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to go 1920 by 1080 just because that's like the standard horizontal landscape size. And then I'm going to do a 24 frames, or I could even do 23976, which is what I'll be exporting out from Premiere anyways. Frames a second, and then for duration, I'm just going to go 10 seconds on this. That will work just great. All right, so here's our first composition. Now, in terms of workspace layout, let me see here. Workspace, I have it just set on default. So if your workspace looks different and you don't want it to look different, no worries. I just have it on default. So you should be able to reset it to default here and have the similar layout that I have. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and bring in my files. So I already have my files in here, but you will want to go to File, Import, File, and then go ahead and navigate to your folder and bring in those video assets. You do not need the audio ones yet. That's going to be for later in Premiere. All right, so I'm going to hit cancel because mine are already in here. So you have what is called this project window, and that is where all of your assets are. And if you see, as I click on the different assets, it gives me a bit of a preview. Let's see, I think I can make this little window bigger, but I'm not remembering how right at the moment. Anyways, it gives you a nice little sort of it shows like a little frame of what that particular asset is. Of course, in a perfect world, you've got all your files named really in a very recognizable way and things are easy to find. But if you don't see this project window here, you can always go to Window and go to Project. So this window's right here, okay? If you're not seeing it, you can pull it up that way. All right, so we've got this new composition, and I'm gonna go ahead and drag down the first two pieces of footage. So I don't have these named, and I should have them named. First is the space footage that we see here. And I see right off the bat that it's not the correct size. So there's a couple different ways. It used to be in After Effects that you would always go to your properties down here. There's transform, and you can transform your properties down here by toggling down this little caret on the side of the layer. But they've also added a properties panel over here. So what I can see is that my video canvas is a little bit it's too short, right? It needs to be a little taller to cover the top of the frame. In After Effects, similarly to Premiere, there's also there's some buttons here that can help you control how you're viewing your project. And I'm going to go ahead and I want to see a little bit more wiggle room. The top option here is fit. So depending on how you have your canvas sort of situated and positioned and your workspace interface organized, it's going to fit it to whatever it is. But I actually want mine to drag down a little bit. I usually like to have a little bit of space around the frame, especially in After Effects. When you're working in After Effects, oftentimes you have things flying in and out of the frame, and it's kind of nice to see where they are. But anyways, I need to bring the scale of this up a little bit. So I'm going to come over to scale here, and I'm just going to pop it up a little bit to 110%. And I can see that my space footage is fitting nicely over the whole area of the canvas on the composition. Okay, so change the scale there, and I'm going to toggle that up because I don't need to see those properties anymore. Then we're going to go ahead and drag down the cloud footage and have this sitting on top. So there's the cloud footage, nice fluffy clouds flying by in the sky. I need to bring the scale down. This video is a little bit larger in size. So I'm going to bring it right around there, and that is a great looking size. Wonderful. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is create a text layer. So all you need to do, you've got all your tools up here. You're familiar with some of these tools in Premiere, but of course After Effects has some more advanced tools to do other types of things. Well, we're simply going to grab the text tool here, and if we click and drag on the screen, there we go. So I can create and type text here. So I'm just gonna type wander again. That is the word that I chose for this. And I can see my text is a little bit large. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that all. In the properties area, you can see that all your typical text options are here. So text size, the type of font that you're using, you know, all of these things. And I am actually going to go ahead just for the heck of it. I'm going to add wonder. So wander and wonder below. I don't think, let's see. It might, I'm not sure if it registered that word. Yes, it did, but they're just too far apart. So I need to make some adjustments over here. There we go. So wander, wonder. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make those a little bit larger, and then I need to go in and adjust the leading here, the space between the two lines. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and grab my arrow tool, and I'm just going to really place this. I can kind of look and make sure that it's looking pretty centered here. So what this text layer is going to become is the pixel map for creating the mask for the cloud layer. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm actually going to drag the text down into the middle. Now, in your menu area over here, you have a couple of different options to collapse your menu and expand it, because there's a whole lot that you can do in this little area, and there's a lot of choices. So let me see. If I collapse both of these, you can see I don't really have a lot of options here. So this very, very lower left-hand corner, it says expand or collapse the layer switches panel. And then the next one over is the transfer controls pane. So I'm going to go ahead and expand both of them, but you're going to see this track matte option when you expand the transfer controls pane, and that is what we want to expand. And I'm just seeing if I can make this if it will allow me to make it a little bit bigger. I don't think it's going to. So I'm going to collapse that first one. Nope, that doesn't do me any good. Okay. Well, anyways, under track mat here, and I always do this backwards on tutorials. So I believe I come up to the cloud layer and it currently has no mat, and I'm gonna choose Wander Wonder. Oh yay, I did it right, okay. So whatever layer you want to assign transparency to, you're gonna have that on top. And then what is going to lay out the map of what is shown and what isn't is gonna be underneath. And the way that I kind of describe this, and hopefully it'll make sense, is like the text layer is sort of the cookie cutter, and so it's gonna cut out parts of this video on the top and where you've told it to based on what you've created for the cookie cutter layer. So again, you're going to, let me just turn that off again and do it again. So with the clouds on top and the text layer underneath, so if I shut off the clouds layer, I have Wander Wonder underneath it. I'm going to go over to track mat. It currently says no mat. I'm going to assign it the Wander Wonder layer, and there we go. And now we have this really cool effect where we've got clouds from the sky blowing over these words, Wander Wonder, with this like space background that creates a very like exploring, like a vibe to go out exploring, wondering what's beyond the, what's immediately around you, thinking of the sky, thinking of places that are bigger than yourself or whatever. Anyway, so cool. So there's our first composite. So let's go ahead and render this out. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Composition, Add to Render Queue. And I want to make sure that I save this file in my project folder. So what did I call this folder? Sound and track mat. So I'm going to call this Wander, and then I'm going to call it Final. So I know that this is the final clip that I want to bring into Adobe Premiere later. Okay, so Wander Final. And then in terms of output module, you can just have these settings and leave it as is. I'm going to do H.264, and the channel should be RGB with millions of colors, and everything else should just be by default, so you don't need to do anything else here. You can see if you click on format, you have a lot of the typical choices that you might have in Adobe Premiere, but you have some extended choices like image sequences and stuff like that, and that is for different things, like if you need to apply an animated texture to an object in a 3D program like Maya or Cinema 4D or something like that. There's reasons to export image sequences, but that's not what we need to do for this particular situation. Okay, I'm gonna hit okay, and what I'm gonna do is hit this render button, go ahead and render that out. Perfect, and if I check my folder, I should have my nice composite exported and ready to go to bring it into Adobe Premiere for final editing. So the way that I kind of think of After Effects is like, some people do larger scale projects in After Effects, but After Effects is really an asset and scene builder. So I think of it as like a place to build all of my Legos together. Like I'm putting the composites together shot by shot. And then I bring them into nonlinear editing, like video editing software afterwards. After Effects can handle a little bit of, doing multiple composites in one timeline, but it tends to just bog the computer down. And I really kind of see it as a place to do motion graphic design and compositing, and then bringing that into a final editing software. So anyway, there we go. There's our first piece. So I'm going to go ahead and end here and take a pause for the next video. We'll do the other two composites, and then we'll go into Premiere for the final one and have some fun in there. So of course, don't forget to save your project. So save as, make sure you save it in the folder that you have all the stuff working on. And if you continue on to the next one, go ahead and save your project anyways so you don't lose your work. After Effects, I must tell you, is a heartbreaker because it is so taxing on your processing capabilities in your computer that it tends to crash a lot of times, not because of the software, it's usually because the computer is struggling. So it just kind of depends on what your setup is. But if you have a little bit older computer, you want to be saving that work, because that is a possibility in After Effects more so than other applications. The other thing that is going to make After Effects hard to run on your computer is if you don't have any space on your hard drive. I usually recommend students have about 50 gigabytes of freed up space on your local hard drive to run the application. So anyways, okay, enough. I'm going to stop here and I'll see you in the next video.